All right, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Montez Travis, and I'm here with Marilyn.
Hi, everybody.
And we're going to be diving into the fascinating world of depositions today.
Yes, we are.
Now, I have to admit, before doing research for this episode, I honestly didn't know a whole lot about depositions.
Oh, yeah.
I knew they were part of, like, the legal process.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get what they were or, why they were so important.
Right. Yeah. They're one of those things that you hear about,
Yeah.
on TV or in the news.
Right.
But maybe you don't have a personal connection to them.
Exactly.
Unless you've been involved in a lawsuit, of course.
Right. And that's kind of what makes this whole thing so interesting, because the source material that we're using for a deep dive today is actually from a mobile notary website.
Yeah, you wouldn't think.
Right.
You'd find information about depositions on a notary website, but it's actually a really good source.
Yeah, it was super informative.
Yeah.
And it really kind of opened my eyes to how these depositions can kind of pop up in unexpected places.
Definitely. And, it just goes to show that legal stuff isn't always confined to the courtroom.
Exactly.
It can be a part of everyday life.
Right. So with that being said,
Okay.
let's try and break down this whole deposition thing.
Okay.
For anyone out there who's maybe as clueless as I was.
Sounds good. So first things first, what exactly is a deposition?
Yeah.
Well, the simplest way to think about it is like a formal interview.
Okay.
But instead of, chatting with someone over coffee,
right.
This is a very structured legal proceeding.
Gotcha.
So you've got attorneys present.
Okay.
The person being questioned is under oath.
Ooh, that's serious.
Yeah, very serious. Every word they say is being recorded by a court reporter.
Okay, so like a verbatim transcript.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this all happens before a trial even begins.
Interesting. So it's like getting a sneak peek into someone's testimony.
Yeah, you could say that.
So then why are these depositions so important?
Well, they serve a few crucial purposes.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Attorneys are always trying to build the strongest case possible, right? So depositions are a way for them to gather information, to really understand the other side's story, and to uncover any potential weaknesses in their arguments.
So it's like a legal chess match.
Exactly. You're trying to anticipate your opponent's moves.
Interesting. And how does this actually play out, like in a real-life case?
Sure. Let's say you have a car accident case.
Okay.
One of the first things an attorney might do is depose the other driver.
Yep.
They'll ask them questions about what they were doing leading up to the accident.
Like were they speeding or texting or...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anything that could help prove negligence.
Right, because that could all be used as evidence later on.
Exactly. Depositions aren't just about getting someone's side of the story.
Yeah.
They're about locking in their testimony under oath.
Right. So if they change their story later on...
Oh,
it
yeah.
could really hurt their credibility.
Big time.
Wow. I'm starting to see why these are such a big deal.
Yeah, they're super important.
So are all depositions the same?
That's a good question.
Or are there different types?
Well, there are actually a couple of different types. The most common one is what's called an oral deposition.
Okay.
Is basically what we've been talking about.
Okay, so lawyers asking questions face to face.
Exactly.
Got it.
But then you also have written depositions,
Okay.
which are a bit less common, but they involve submitting questions in advance.
Oh, interesting.
And then the deponent answers them in writing.
So it's all done on paper.
Exactly.
Fascinating. So let's say you're on the receiving end of this whole deposition thing.
Right.
You get that subpoena in the mail.
Yeah.
What should you expect?
Well, first of all, it's completely understandable to feel a bit intimidated.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
It's not every day you're called to give sworn testimony.
Right.
But it's crucial to remember that you have rights.
Okay.
And the most important one is the right to legal counsel. Never, ever go into a deposition without your lawyer.
Yeah, they can kind of guide you through the process.
Absolutely. They're there to make sure your rights are protected.
Gotcha.
And to help you navigate the whole legal jargon and procedures.
That makes sense.
Huh.
So after the deposition is over,
Okay.
what happens then?
Well, you'll have a chance to review the transcript,
Okay.
which is basically that official record of everything that was said.
Right.
And this is super important. Make sure you read it carefully. Correct any errors before signing off on it.
So every word matters.
Every single word. It's your official testimony.
Right.
And it can be used in court.
Wow. And this is where our mobile notary source comes back into play, right?
Exactly. You see, while notaries aren't directly involved in the questioning part of the deposition, they often play a key role in notarizing that final transcript.
Okay.
And that might seem like a small detail.
Right.
But that notarization actually adds a whole layer of legal validity to the document.
So it's about ensuring accuracy and accountability.
Precisely. It all ties back to that.
Wow. That's really insightful.
Yeah.
I have to say I've learned a lot today.
Me too. It's been a good deep dive.
Yeah. So we've covered what a deposition is, why it's so important,
Right.
and even how notaries can play a role.
Yeah.
But I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay.
If you were called to give a deposition, what steps would you take to make sure you were prepared and that your testimony was accurate, knowing how much weight it could hold in a legal case?
That's a really good question for everyone to think about.
Yeah. So think about that, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.